It began under the burning Egyptian sun, a world where sand shimmered like gold, and gold was as common as sand, where the Nile whispered secrets of eternity, and men were called gods. This was the realm of the pharaohs.
The eye of Horus shines upon the chosen one.
For thousands of years, Egypt stood as the most powerful and dazzling civilization on earth. At the heart of it all stood one man, the Pharaoh, a ruler believed to be chosen by the gods themselves, blessed with divine power and unimaginable wealth. His word was law, his presence sacred, and his life an endless display of luxury that defied belief. Every morning in the royal palace began not with noise, but with ritual.
We honor the king.
Long before dawn, priests entered the halls of gold and incense. They carried sacred oils, fresh flowers, and bowls of milk and honey. The pharaoh was not to be awakened like an ordinary man. He was summoned into the world as the living embodiment of Horus, the falcon god. Servants washed his body with water drawn from the Nile, scented with lotus petals and precious oils imported from the distant lands of Punt. His skin glowed with the sheen of myrrh and frankincense. Robes woven with threads of gold were laid out for him, and jeweled collars glistened like the morning sun. Breakfast was a feast. Fresh figs, honey cakes, dates, roasted goose, and bread made from the finest wheat. The royal chefs among the most skilled in Egypt crafted meals not just for taste but for ritual purity. Every dish symbolized abundance, order, and divine favor. Outside the palace walls, thousands of workers labored under the pharaoh's command. They cut stones, carved temples, raised obelisks that pointed to heaven. Their sweat was the foundation of the pharaoh's glory. Yet to the people he was not a tyrant. He was a bridge between the mortal and the divine, the keeper of Ma'at, the sacred balance of the universe. Within the palace, life unfolded like a symphony of wealth. Walls were painted with scenes of eternal prosperity. Gardens blooming under a golden sky, rivers filled with fish, servants offering gifts to the throne. The pharaoh's chambers were lined with alabaster, inlaid with turquoise and lapis lazuli. Every surface reflected not just luxury but power. Even leisure was divine. The pharaoh's gardens were unlike any in the ancient world, filled with imported trees from Syria, rare flowers from Nubia, and artificial ponds filled with lotus blooms. There were musicians playing harps and flutes, dancers moving gracefully under torchlight, and trained pets, lions, cheetahs, even exotic birds, all symbols of majesty. Pharaohs were obsessed not just with life but with eternity. Every decision in their daily routine echoed a single belief, that death was merely another form of living. Each morning prayer, each offering to the gods, each jewel he wore, was a step toward immortality. Behind this divine facade was a complex world of politics and devotion. The royal court was filled with viziers, priests, scribes, and nobles, each playing their role in maintaining Egypt's cosmic balance. The pharaoh's wife, the great royal wife, was no mere consort. She was a goddess in human form, sharing in rituals and advising her husband in matters of rule. Education and knowledge were prized. The pharaoh was often taught from childhood by the kingdom's wisest priests. He learned mathematics, astronomy, theology, and warfare. His decisions affected millions, from the farmers along the Nile to the merchants trading gold, papyrus, and grain across the Red Sea. Trade brought unimaginable riches. Caravans arrived from distant lands, from Mesopotamia, Crete, Nubia, and beyond, carrying incense, ivory, gemstones, and rare spices. Egypt's wealth flowed through the Nile like blood through a vein, feeding cities, temples, and tombs. The pharaoh was the center of this network, the eternal symbol of abundance. Even time itself revolved around him. Festivals marked his coronation, his victories, his birthdays, and his connection to the gods. During the Great Opet festival in Thebes, statues of the gods Amun, Mut, and Khonsu were carried through the city streets while people sang praises to the living god on earth, the pharaoh. Yet behind this divine splendor, the pharaoh was still human. He loved, grieved, and aged like any other man. His children played in the palace courtyards, his wives competed for favor, and his heart longed for immortality. The difference was, he could afford to chase it. The pharaoh's relationship with death was not one of fear, but of preparation. Every day of his life was a rehearsal for eternity. Gold jewelry, chariots, thrones, perfumes, and food, all crafted to accompany him into the afterlife. Artisans and priests spent decades preparing his tomb, ensuring that every detail would please the gods. When night fell over Egypt, the pharaoh retired not to sleep, but to dream, dreams that were considered messages from the divine. The royal physician stood by with remedies made from honey, herbs, and minerals. Incense burned through the halls to purify the air and keep away evil spirits. Outside, guards stood watch under the starlit desert sky. The next morning, the cycle began again, a divine routine wrapped in gold and ritual. To the pharaoh, wealth was not greed, it was proof of divine blessing. Every palace, every jewel, every servant was a reflection of his godlike nature. His entire existence was built on the idea that he was chosen, not born to rule. And yet, even the mightiest pharaoh could not escape time. One by one, their bodies turned to dust, but their names, carved into stone, lived on. Temples still whisper their glories. Ramses the Great, Akhenaten, Tutankhamun, Cleopatra, echoes of a world where kings lived as gods and died to become legends. Archaeologists today still uncover fragments of that lost world. Golden coffins, perfectly preserved sandals, games of senet lying beside royal mummies, perfume jars that still carry a faint scent after 3,000 years. Each discovery tells the same story, that Egypt's rulers did not just live richly, they built eternity from gold and faith. The daily life of a pharaoh was a masterpiece of order and excess. Every breath had meaning, every action carried power. From the moment he rose at dawn to the time he entered his golden chamber at night, the pharaoh lived inside a performance, one meant to remind his people that the gods still walked among them. Even in silence, the pharaoh's presence filled the air. Courtiers bowed as he passed, musicians played hymns, and priests whispered blessings. Every subject believed that as long as the pharaoh ruled, the Nile would flood, the crops would grow, and the sun would rise again. His throne was carved from cedar and ivory, his sandals inlaid with gold. Even his chariot, used in ceremonies, shone brighter than the desert light. Gold was more than a metal, it was divine flesh, the symbol of immortality. As centuries passed, Egypt's power rose and fell, dynasties changed, and empires came and went, but the legend of the pharaoh's wealth never faded. In their tombs, sleeping under layers of sand, they still hold treasures beyond imagination, jewels, amulets, statues, and scrolls filled with prayers to guide their souls. Modern historians estimate that some pharaohs, like Ramses II and Tutankhamun, commanded wealth equivalent to billions in today's currency. But their greatest treasure was not gold, it was legacy, the idea that power and divinity could merge in a single human being. Even today, as we gaze upon their statues and pyramids, we can sense their presence, silent, eternal, untouchable. The life they lived was not just royal, it was cosmic. Every sunrise, every ritual, every heartbeat was part of a divine performance meant to outlive time itself. And perhaps it did, because thousands of years later, the name of every pharaoh still echoes through history, a reminder that once, under the golden sun of Egypt, men dared to live as gods, and succeeded. Empires rise, gold fades, but the stories of those who ruled the world with divine power and endless wealth never die. The sands of Egypt still whisper their names, echoes of glory buried beneath time. The pharaohs may have turned to dust, but their dreams of immortality still live in every temple, every tomb, every stone kissed by the desert sun. This was their world, built on belief, beauty, and boundless wealth, a world where men lived like gods, and gods demanded to be remembered. You've been watching Wealth Untold, uncovering the riches that time tried to hide. Join us next time as we journey into another forgotten empire, where fortune, faith, and fate collide once again. Because true wealth is never lost, it's just waiting to be rediscovered.